This is the ZNS Network, providing radio and high-definition television services for the entire Bahamas. ZNS Network is operated by the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. It is located at Harcourt Rusty Bethel Drive, Centerville, Nassau. Our programming is designed to inform, educate, and entertain. We invite you to join us.
The following is the preamble of the Constitution of the Bahamas, which was made on June 20th, 1973, and came into operation July 10th, 1973.
Whereas 481 years ago, the rediscovery of this family of islands, rocks and keys, heralded the rebirth of the New World. And whereas the people of this family of islands, recognizing that the preservation of their freedom will be guaranteed by a national commitment to self-discipline, industry, loyalty, unity, and an abiding respect for Christian values and the rule of law. Now, know we therefore, we the inheritors of and successors to this family of islands, recognizing the supremacy of God and believing in the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual, do hereby proclaim in solemn praise the establishment of a free and democratic sovereign nation, founded on spiritual values, and in which no man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone, or their labor exploited, or their lives frustrated by deprivation, and do hereby provide by these articles for the indivisible unity and creation under God of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Monitored by the doctor twice a day with the temperature check, and they've all been doing fine.
The community is policing itself, so persons are providing intel and providing information when they see persons arrive that they hadn't seen for months or the whole time, because these communities are small.
A glimmer of hope in the face of daunting challenges. Good morning, everyone. I'm Makush Lapinder, and this is your morning edition. A dose of optimism, yet caution from the Prime Minister as the Bahamas continues its fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. 49 confirmed cases and 8 deaths later. Our Altaviz Munnings has more from the Prime Minister's national address in this report.
Our physical distancing measures, curfews, and lockdowns are having an effect. But we still have a long way to go.
1 month after the Bahamas reported its first positive case of the COVID-19 virus, Prime Minister the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis is optimistic that the Bahamas is making progress in the fight against the pandemic, but he admits that now is not the time to let down our guard. The Prime Minister appealed to private sector doctors to join the front line during his national address Easter Monday, as he maintains the Bahamas needs every health professional available to fight this grave threat. The Prime Minister pledged that he too will join the fight if he has to, as they all took a solemn oath to protect lives. While confirming 2 additional COVID-19 cases in New Providence that now pushes the total count to 49, Prime Minister Minnis outlined the conditions that encompassed the 8 individuals who have died from the virus.
The patients who have succumbed to COVID-19 were older in age and had significant comorbidities or conditions that are known to cause a poor outcome in COVID-19. These conditions include essential hypertension, asthma, obesity, and malignancy or cancer. These underlying conditions led to dire outcomes, as well as to the severity of their infections and pneumonias. Several of these patients were intubated and supported with critical care, but were unable to recover. There are additional factors related to those who are being tested with the SARS-CoV coronavirus 2, the virus that causes COVID-19 in the Bahamas to date.
The Prime Minister also announced that government's alphabetical supermarket schedule, which began on April 6th, has been suspended from April 14th through 17th and will resume on Monday, April 20th. He confirmed that grocery stores in New Providence will open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. and only seniors and the disabled will be able to shop in the grocery stores from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. The nation's leader further revealed that effective immediately on Saturdays during the weekend lockdowns, grocery stores will be allowed to operate from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and pharmacies will be opened until 3 p.m. only for essential workers.
There is enough food in our Bahamas for everyone. There is no need for panic buying. There is enough food. I also wish to remind you that because of expiration dates on food, to be careful about stockpiling food. You do not wish to make yourself and your family sick by consuming food that has expired. I encourage store owners to design a system for their stores that works best. For example, in some stores on New Providence and Grand Bahama, a ticketing system appears to be working well. This is a process other stores may wish to adopt. If you do not need to go to the food store, that is tomorrow, please consider waiting for another day. This will help you to avoid lines and to protect your health and the health of others. There is no perfect system during times such as these, but let us all work together to design the best system possible.
Altavis Munnings, ZNS Network News.
Now, the Prime Minister's COVID-19 update also leading to the announcement of a food security task force being appointed. The idea is to ensure every Bahamian and resident who needs food gets it.
The task force will also make recommendations to increase food production in the Bahamas, including through BAMSI, farmers markets, backyard and community gardens, and other ways of producing and distributing food in the short, medium, and long term. I will have more to say about this domestic food production in the week ahead. Such production will play a significant role in stimulating our domestic economy. Because of our high rate of non-communicable diseases, such as diabetes and hypertension, and the very high level of obesity in the country, we will aggressively promote healthier eating, nutrition, and physical activity. The current range of health problems in our country and the resulting impact on immune systems is playing a significant and determining role in how our bodies can deal with the effect of this COVID-19 virus.
Still on the issue of food and food supplies, governmental and non-governmental agencies, along with private sector companies, have banded in this regard.
Through their combined efforts, fresh produce, cooked meals, grocery packets, and other food supplies have been delivered directly to those in need in Abaco, Grand Bahama, Eleuthera, and New Providence. In the last 7 days, the Bahamas Feeding Network distributed $40,000 in food vouchers and between $10,000 to $15,000 in food parcels. Hands for Hunger has distributed 50,000 pounds of donated food, $5,000 in non-perishables, and are budgeting an additional $20,000 for food vouchers. We encourage others to donate food. The Food Security Task Force will indicate how such donations can be made.
Now, in terms of testing for the virus, the Prime Minister yesterday stressed that the Ministry of Health will this week expand testing, and this, he said, will lead to an increase in the number of cases. Furthermore, health officials are closely monitoring the case numbers to determine where the Bahamas stands in the surge. Our news team reached out to Health Minister, the Honourable Dr. Dwayne Sands, this morning. Here's what he shared with us.
The interventions that are being made and the participation of the Bahamian public may be bearing some fruit. We will need to continue to track the accrual of cases, and as we ramp up our testing, we should be able to confirm. But certainly, we are very, very pleased that there have been no additional deaths, and we hope that that trend continues.
Now, from those in quarantine, talk to us about their dynamics. Are there a significant count of people with compromised immune systems or any other noticeable traits, and are there trends noticed at this time?
Well, in terms of quarantine, most of the persons in quarantine or isolation, so let's speak about quarantine, these would be people that have been exposed to cases of COVID. And then those in isolation would be those persons confirmed to be COVID positive that are isolating themselves from others. We are drilling down into the comorbidities, how many people are diabetic, how many people are hypertensive, how many people are obese, but we don't have that data yet available for public release.
The entire country remains in the throes now of this fight with COVID-19. How long are officials predicting that this will last?
That's an excellent question, and we are studying this very aggressively. I think anybody that gives you a definitive answer is misleading you, because nobody really knows. There are theories that are being tested. And even as we pay attention to the public health concerns, we have to look to how we can optimize the timing of reopening our economy. So it's balancing the public health concerns and the threat to human life with the challenge of an economy which is struggling. We don't know exactly when mass or herd immunity will happen. The belief is that after people have been exposed to COVID and recover, that certainly for a period of time, they should be immune. So ultimately, those people that get infected could no longer be susceptible to COVID and could therefore move about more freely.
Meantime, good news coming out of Bimini this morning. 39 residents quarantined following that island's first COVID-19 death are being released. Island Administrator Cleola Pinder says the residents were part of the contact tracing of 57-year-old Kim Johnson Rowe.
They're being monitored by the doctor twice a day with the temperature checks, and they have all been doing fine from day one. They would have been the contact tracing persons that may have come in contact with the first COVID-19 death. Both all isolated at home, and they're all doing well. If everyone continue to stay indoors as mandated, then we'll be fine. We've been prepared as best we can from the beginning, and I think the planning and all of the stakeholders being involved made it so much easier. So when we encountered anything, we were able to act right away on it. We would continue to advise those persons on all of the islands throughout the Bahamas to just adhere to the relevant authorities and, whatever they're saying to do, let's just do it. Stay home, practice health hygiene, and then, of course, most importantly, pray.
Now, one of those elements assisting health officials in the fight against COVID-19 is contact tracing, which is being able to pinpoint contacts each case may have interacted with. Jiminy DeSwain shares how suspected people are contacted regarding their possible exposure to the virus.
We then make contact with those persons, and the first thing we'll let them know is that anonymously, we have come into information that they have been identified as a contact of a confirmed case of COVID-19. We do not inform them as to who the person is, but then we let them know that based on their contact, that they are at risk for possibly developing the disease into the future. So in that case, what we would need them to do is to isolate themselves.
Dr. Brennan also explains what happens with persons who have symptoms.
If they are having symptoms, then we will then arrange for where they may be able to go for testing, or for us to then come to them to have testing done. But it's really based on whether they have symptoms that would be suggestive of COVID-19 or not.
On a daily basis, whether on the national lockdown or curfew, law enforcement officers are on the streets. Dr. Brennan was asked if cases are being reported among those ranks.
Have not come into contact with many law enforcement officers who are either cases or known contacts. The few that we are, we do the same thing. We advise them to self-quarantine, and if that is not possible, then we will relocate them. Of course, if any of them have symptoms, then we would go about doing testing, but there's not a large run by any stretch of law enforcement officers who either have COVID-19 or who have been exposed to someone with COVID-19.
And officials have reported that one contact alone had as many as 90 contacts, with the competent team reaching out to suspected cases with a 90% success rate. Dr. Brennan provides a breakdown of how many contacts patients could actually have interacted with.
It averages out in the 40 plus for our healthcare workers, but for our non-healthcare workers, we're closer to around 20 contacts per person. So it just depends on the individual case-by-case situation, but we don't necessarily see that many contacts with each one of our cases.
Well, concerns in Abaco over inter-island travel over the holiday weekend. Some people were reportedly flying into the island by charter, aircraft, and boats. Administrator Therese Boodle-Lang says the law enforcement officers were alerted.
Police and defense force are getting specific details with regard to who is bringing in persons, in particular from Grand Bahama to Little Abaco, from Nassau into areas such as Prejiki or Sandy Point. We're getting information regarding that, and those matters have been reported to the police for further investigation. And the good thing about it is that the community is policing itself, so persons are providing intel and providing information when they see persons arrive that they hadn't seen for months or the whole time, because these communities are small. So they know when persons would have just come in or weren't here the whole time, and they're providing that information. So we're aware of specific information on specific cases, and so those informations have been provided to the police. But for the most part, as you drive in and about Abaco and communities, you see that people are adhering to the rules, and that is what we want to see continue to happen.
However, the island, which is still rebuilding following Hurricane Dorian, had no issues with supplies during the 5-day lockdown.
On the ground, we have two of the major food stores, Maxwell as well as Abaco Groceries, that have opened up since Hurricane Dorian, as well as there were some remaining items in our distribution centers, but we're satisfied that there is enough on the ground. And those stores have expressed to us that they have no shortage. They have supplies waiting to restock and their shelves, and so we're satisfied that that's not an issue that we have to deal with.
In Exuma, the situation returning to some normalcy this morning as residents on that island adhered to the 5-day lockdown. A drive through the community showed quiet streets. Here's Administrator Ivan Ferguson with this update.
Residents of Exuma, Keys, and Ragged Island observed the Easter weekend holidays locked down at home under curfew in accordance with the COVID-19 Emergency Powers Order 2020. Shoppers who were exempted from the alphabetical food shopping schedule flocked to local food stores last week, Thursday, and observed strict physical distancing. I was assured by the proprietors of all of the stores on the island that there are adequate food supplies on the island. The traditional Good Friday religious services were held via social media, notably Zoom and Facebook, in keeping with social distancing. Proprietors of food stores took advantage of the amended emergency order only to replenish their stores with groceries and essential items.
Coming up, how you can continue to protect yourself from COVID-19 while at home. You're watching the Morning Edition. Stay with us.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
School is closed, but we are not on vacation. We are staying at home to ensure we remain healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19. Remember to regularly and thoroughly wash hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Maintain a safe distance between you and someone else with a cough or sneeze. Remember, it's safer and smarter.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
The store is only letting so many persons in. Do you think that's going to become a challenge in a sense?
We have to do something. Us being a very small nation,
An unprecedented time. The fight to combat this latest pandemic continues. Extreme measures taken.
A curfew is imposed every day for 24 hours.
International travel and the country's border is now shut down. Local businesses closed and the country on a 24-hour lockdown. Police patrolling the streets and those in breach will be made to answer. The coronavirus, a global crisis now affecting the Bahamas.
The ZNS community page now has its own home on Channel 230. Be sure to tune into this channel to see informative notices, funeral announcements, birthday greetings, and much, much more. So watch the ZNS community channel today on Cable 230.
Initial plans had government schools reopening today, but in the face of increasing COVID-19 cases, that, of course, will not happen. The question then is, when will it be safe for students to return to the classrooms? To that, Education Minister, the Honorable Jeffrey Lloyd, noted that as it stands, all campuses will remain closed for face-to-face instruction. That is, until the ministry receives further advice from the Ministry of Health. Furthermore, all examinations, including GLAT, BJC, and BGCSE, are postponed until the government deems it safe for school to resume. And whenever that happens, he assures parents will be informed and given ample notice. Well, how secure is your home? While you may have followed recommendations to remain indoors and social distancing, there are ways you and your family can still be exposed to COVID-19. Lloyd Allen takes a closer look at the surfaces we come in contact with daily.
Like this door handle, throughout the day, a person may come in contact with dozens of surfaces. Being aware of those surfaces and washing our hands frequently may in fact be the tool needed to fight COVID-19. Health officials say based on their best assessments, staying at home may be your strongest defense against COVID-19. Health Minister, the Honorable Dr. Dwayne Sands, reiterates the virus is not airborne, as some argue, like the common flu or measles.
COVID-19, on the other hand, is spread by droplets, which means that if you sneeze, if you cough, if you breathe, those droplets of spit or what have you would suspend the COVID-19 virus, and it would only stay suspended in the air for a brief period of time and then fall to the ground or fall to different surfaces where it can last for some time.
So the public is urged to remain indoors and out of contact with others. But an invisible contact could be residual components of the virus on your forearm after leaning on a public surface, possibly the bottom of your shoes, or even on the grocery bag from the store. Even at the bank, the contact you make could in fact expose you or your family to this sneaky virus.
Doorknobs, countertops, telephones, things that people touch frequently and then put their hand to their face or in their mouth or to their eyes are more likely to be culprits. So let's not focus so much on what's happening on the street, but pay much more attention to the things that you interact with every single day.
So in your home, while a thorough clean may have been conducted, ensure to clean entry doorknobs, your cell phone, keys, eyeglass case, pens and pencils used in the office should stay there. But if those items make their way into your pockets, clean them. Sands says masks are mandatory, as well as reducing your contact with others.
The most important thing that we want people to remember is that it's not the mask. It is the social distancing, it is the hand washing, it is the appropriate cough and sneeze hygiene that makes the biggest difference, and the mask adds a little extra insurance.
Anyone, in fact, can be what is known as a super spreader or asymptomatic. So visitors, regardless of their relation, should be discouraged at all costs.
2 cases where the number of contacts exceeds 140 persons. And those 140 persons are now at risk for becoming COVID positive. Super spreaders are individuals who oftentimes do not have symptoms or may have very mild symptoms. And so they walk about quite healthy to the naked eye, but they are able to infect their friends, their family members, their co-workers, and they continue to do this day in and day out.
Ensure that those who go out for essential reasons remain alert and aware of the possibility of COVID lurking on any outside surface. For the morning edition, Lloyd Allen, ZNS Network News.
Well, during this time, funeral services have been at a minimum. Still, the deaths of COVID-19 victims has pushed funeral homes at the forefront in terms of just how should these bodies be handled. Charles Fisher has that angle.
With the number of deaths now at 8 due to the coronavirus, there's much debate as to the right of burial for their loved ones. Minister of Health, Dr. Dwayne Sands.
The World Health Organization has issued a statement or position paper that says that there is no reason why a patient who has succumbed from COVID-19 could not have an ordinary burial. So the choice would remain burial or cremation. There are clearly issues. People would like to hope that they can have a dignified burial with a culturally significant number of mourners, family members, etc. And so some people will probably choose to keep their loved ones or the remains in storage. As long as we have the capacity to do that, I don't think that is going to be a problem, but there is no specific requirement for cremation.
Kirsch Ferguson, president of the Funeral Directors Association of the Bahamas, put it this way.
If families so choose, burial or cremation is permitted with COVID-19 victims. We stand by the recommendations of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the position of the government of the Bahamas. We stand by the recommendations that were updated just in April of this year of the Centers for Disease Control, that embalming can indeed be done on COVID-19 cases as long as universal safety precautions are exercised by funeral service professionals. We do acknowledge, however, that as with all infectious cases, the infection dies with the host. And yes, the infection can exist on our equipment, our instruments, and other material in the prep room. We are therefore very mindful to ensure that that infection is not passed on to us as professionals, and thereby also onto our family and friends.
The World Health Organization, in its March 24th guidance of burial of COVID-19 victims, says bodies are generally not infected, but it is recommended that relatives not touch or kiss the body, and government rules on social distancing be adhered to.
Universal precautions simply means that as funeral service professionals, we, when engaged in handling infectious bodies, are to wear PPEs, or personal protective equipment. This is inclusive of a full body coverall, double surgical gloves, a face mask or respirator, protective eyewear, and a face shield, and a disposable apron. Additionally, we are to ensure that when handling infectious cases, the appropriate disinfectants, concentration of embalming chemicals, and procedures are followed during the removal, embalming, and cleaning after the embalming process are strictly followed.
And with guidelines in place for the number of persons that can be allowed to attend a service, options are open.
During this pandemic, we have witnessed many families opting to postpone funerals. Obviously, based on our cultural traditions, most Bahamians prefer to have their loved ones embalmed, viewed, and have a traditional church funeral service. Families that choose cremation are also opting to have a funeral or memorial service at a later date.
For the Morning Edition, I'm Charles Fisher.
COVID-19 and its impact draining many across the globe. Here at home, a local gospel artist and producer, Kelda Sweeting, produced a video to help uplift the spirits of those battling the stress of the illness and lockdown.
Okay, well, ever since the lockdown began, I had been thinking of what could I do to bring a little bit of happy relief as we would go through the days. And so I was just waiting to be inspired on what to start off with. And last week, the idea came to me to take one of my rhythms that was created for another song that I wanted to do, a praise and worship piece that I wanted to do, and to take it and just pass it around and get people to either sing to it, rap to it, or chat to it. But you had 2 days to do it, and that's the end result. And so that's how it came about. Just want to bring some happy relief. The main message I wanted to get out there is for everyone to kind of take a load off and let the brain relax and just know that God is with us, that he cares about us, and that he hears us, and he's feeling all the fear. He's touched with our grief, with our infirmities, with our fears. He's in touch with it, and to know that everything's going to be okay. He is with us. God is with us.
Here's now that local COVID-19 production, We're Gonna Make It, featuring a number of Bahamian artists.
We are gonna make it.
People born to survive.
We will conquer this.
We are coming out of this stronger.
So we coming out stronger.
Keep your head up. Trust God. Pray. Believe.
We gonna make it through this one, y'all. We gonna make it.
So everybody around the world, alright. Every people, every tribe. Let's stand together, 'cause we will survive. And we're gonna make it to the other side. Let's go, everybody around the world.
well, you gotta stand strong. Me come to tell you, well, you gotta hold on. No matter what comes your way, yes, everything's gonna be okay. We say you're coming out bigger, better than never before. We say you're coming out bigger, better than never before.
Don't worry themselves. They are masters our children. And they are over under the blood, so no COVID-19 can kill them. To everybody out there, this is how we responding. We've been in you for a night, but joy I go come in the morning.
Everybody around the world, arise. Every people, every tribe. Let's get together. We will survive. 'Cause we're gonna make it to the other side.
This trial will make us stronger. Keep your head up. All things work together for the good of those that trust God.
Keep your head up.
It's gonna get better. Hang in there.
Yes, sir.
Stay strong and hang in there. God is still in control.
We're trusting God. It's gonna get better.
We will get through this.
Let's go.
Say no weapon come against you will ever prosper. If we stand on His word, we are conquerors. No battle that we fight on our own, we win. 'Cause we take it to the Lord and in prayer we win. Lord, we cover Italy and Uganda. We thank you for your blood for America. Lord, we cover the Bahamas and Germany. We thank you for your blood even for Fuji.
All we need is each other to help stand up. One mind, one body, many nations. One life, one love congregating. What you give is what you get, so be patient. To the other side, all together we make it. You're stronger than you know, yes, you can take it. So keep pressing on, even through frustration. We are going to make it, all going to make it.
Everybody around the world arise. Every people, every tribe. Let's stay together. We will survive. Yeah, we're gonna make it to the other side.
Hey, don't worry about a thing. Everything will be alright. It's gonna get so better, 'cause I got it greater. Everything will be okay. Let's go.
We're gonna make it, we gotta face it. Trust in the Most High, He is gracious. We're gonna make it, yes, we got to face it. COVID-19 now, we gotta break this. I've been young, I know I'm old. Never seen the righteous forsaken, not the soul. Trust in God, He's in control. He's gonna help us all.
Everybody around the world arise. Every people, every tribe. Let's stand together, 'cause we will survive. And we're gonna make it to the other side.
I know that we will make it. I know 'cause we are strong. I know that we will make it 'cause we can't keep God's people down. So keep on looking up, 'cause that's where our help comes from. I know that we will make it. Yes, we're gonna make it.
Keep your head up. Just good.
After isolation comes elevation. We will get through this.
Let's stand together, everybody. Let's go. Everybody around the world arise. Every people, every tribe. Let's stand together. We will survive. 'Cause we're gonna make it to the other side.
Yes, son. Don't worry about a thing. Everything is gonna be okay. The better days, they on the way. All you gotta do is hold on and be strong. We can make it together. All you gotta do is stand together. United we stand, divided we fall. So you don't wanna fall. Just stand up, rise up, keep your head up. Yes, sir.
One God, one King, one destination. This love peace and joy in every situation.
situation. We have to sit together, no separation. If a God be for us, who could be against us? A coronavirus cannot stand against us. We say one God, one King, one destination. We have to spread the love in every situation. One God, one King, one destination.
Everybody around the world, alright. Every people and every tribe. Let's band together and we will survive. We're gonna make it all to the other side. It's gonna get better. We will conquer this. It's gonna get better. This too shall pass. Hang in there. Let's go. Well, everyone here talking about this corona. No time for me, I expand Jehovah. Rise up, give me your prayer. Make it clear, no fear, you declare well. It's been a while since when if I come to sing. Me think it's time me come back on the scene. Long time, let's be a support the thing. Whether you're black, you're white, you're dark, you like this thing. We have a everybody around the world, arise. Every people, every tribe. Let's stand together, cause we will survive.
Self-isolation means taking simple steps to avoid close contact with other people as much as possible, as you would with the seasonal flu. If you've been in close contact with somebody confirmed with COVID-19 or suspect that you have it, self-isolate for 14 days. You can self-isolate by staying indoors and away from family for 14 days. Choose a well-ventilated room with a closed door. Household members should stay in a different room, or if that is not possible, maintain a distance of at least 3 feet. Use a sealed waste basket and double bag your waste before disposal. Limit movement in your house. Stay in your assigned space away from the rest of the household. The caretaker will bring food and anything else you need. Use separate cookery and cutlery. Use a separate bathroom and clean it regularly. Use separate towels, separate cleaning linens, and clothing. If you are in need of care by household members, limit the number of caregivers. Assign one person who is in good health and has minimum risk conditions. Most importantly, remember, do not invite others over. Should you or anyone you know feel that you've been exposed to the coronavirus, contact the COVID-19 hotline at the Ministry of Health immediately. To reach us, call 376-9350, 376-9387, 300-2619, or our 24-hour hotline at 502-7382. For more information, visit covid19.gov.bs.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Ministry of Health and this television station.
Well, the struggle is real the world over, and clergymen are not immune to the hardship COVID-19 has brought with it. Still, some have come under fire, requesting tithes and offerings in such challenging times. Now, while opting out of commenting directly on the issue, Bahamas Christian Council President Bishop Delton Fernandez stresses that for the most part, churches would have had food banks which were challenged by Hurricane Dorian last September. And COVID has only compounded that situation.
The resources of food banks are challenged, to say the least. We've heard from Walter Hansel. I don't think sometimes we realize that most of the fooding programs are out of churches. And so the finances are not coming in, the material is not coming in, and so I understand some pastors might be speaking to their congregants and not necessarily to the wider public, that if they choose to, those that are still minded to give their tithes and offering, trying to give them the process, but they can do that. But the church is the people, it's not the building, it's not the pastor. And so it's people doing for people. And if people are hurting, people rise up and do it for the people. And we are working on food programs with some entities. Some of the MPs will be partnering with churches in their community. Some of potential candidates will be partnering churches in their community. But we need a system that allows us to not get sick And so in the coming weeks, as things get better, the outlay of feeding programs for the elderly, for the working poor, and those, and I say that those who have lost their job, lost their income, you'll see that either breakfast or lunch will be available for those that can be reached. All of this needs logistics. All of it needs a church that can fund it. Most churches are under 100 people in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and so this becomes a mammoth task.
Bishop Fernando insisting then that at the end of the day, the perception that the church only takes is a fallacy.
As my last month as president, Byron, if I'm re-elected, I'm working hard to get data so that you could see just how strong of an impact food programs, clothing and what's not. The Salvation Army was inundated. I think we forget that's a church program. Inundated with people, had to shut their doors. All of the feeding programs are run from churches, other than the state-owned, are run from churches. These are what tithes and offering go to. And the image of pastors who are superstars and what's not are far in the minority. Most of us are bivocational. I know no one ever asked me, what job, where do I work other than the church? I have an engineering degree. I make money by working. So the church is not the place where your living is sustained, but now even the pastor is unemployed.
Well, today's pastoral motivation is being brought to you by Pastor T. Basil Stirrup of Good News Seventh-day Adventist Church.
I'm here to encourage you to have confidence in the midst of COVID-19. As we consider what our country has been going through over the past few weeks, resiliency is an important characteristic that each citizen will have to possess in order for us to thrive while we face the coronavirus. And nothing produces resiliency more than being aware of this fact. In spite of what's happening, God has our best interests at heart. Therefore, the greatest challenge we face today is not a virus that has caused a global lockdown. Our greatest challenge is what we choose to focus on during the lockdown. The perspective or lens through which we see life in a crisis situation will either make us disenchanted or help us to make sense of what's going on in our world. And that's because what we choose to see is often colored by the condition of our hearts. Too often we choose to focus our lenses on negative assumptions, fears, prejudice, and lack of knowledge. And whatever the condition of our heart is, usually is a correspondent response. That means our attitudes can be more deadly than the coronavirus. Today, I challenge the Bahamas and the world to capture your memories of COVID-19 by focusing your lens only on what is good. Like a professional photographer, I dare you to zoom in only on the things that will help us to benefit from this pandemic. It's amazing that some persons are complaining about the curfew, rebelling against social distancing, and becoming disillusioned with the lack of freedom, while others living in the same condition are grateful for the quality time they have to spend with family, the absence of stress associated with driving through traffic every morning, and above all, gaining knowledge of how careless we have become when it comes to practicing good hygiene. Whatsoever things are of a good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. If we have seen nothing positive because of COVID-19, I encourage us to adjust the lens through which we see life. And ultimately, like myself, you too will begin to see that that which was meant for evil, God has the ability to turn it around for our good.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, your hottest place on the planet for rims, tints, tires, and auto sales. We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Track Lights, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king. Blessed luck.
What I love most about working for the Bahamas tonight is that we don't only focus on New Providence. We cover the entire Bahamas. We have a team here in the Northern Bahamas that is ready to bring you the stories, the people, and the news that matter to you. From point A to Z, from covering hurricanes to elections and everything in between.
ZNS is everywhere you are when you download the new ZNS app. Watch our live channel to keep up with what's going on in the nation. News updates, we've got you covered. Tune into our radio stations with just a swipe. On the road, on the go, we're here with you. Available for download on the App Store and the Google Play Store.
Well, it's time for our morning commute, and for that, we turn to our Lloyd Allen.
The traffic report is sponsored by Bahamas First. First in insurance. Today, tomorrow.
Yes, good morning to you guys in studio, and good morning, Bahamas. This morning, we're giving you your first look at traffic. This one coming in from Boyd Road and Nassau Street. Of course, as you can see from our drone shot, the Super Value just a few feet away from me is, like many across the country, packed with persons emerging from their homes, getting those replacement items as they emerge from this extended lockdown over the weekend. This morning, I'm also joined by Sergeant Jerron Thompson from the Royal Bahamas Police Force Traffic Division, who's talking to us about developments over the weekend. Good morning, Officer Thompson.
Good morning to you. Good morning, Bahamas.
So I understand that there was a major traffic incident in Abaco over the weekend. Talk to us about that.
Yes, in the island of Abaco, we had a traffic fatality sometime around 9:15 a.m. In the Sandy Point area, where a lone bail would have crashed and would have expired on scene. We sent a team of officers to assist with the investigation on the island of Abaco. Our thoughts and our prayers are with his family in their time of bereavement.
Any other developments across the country?
We still trying to deal with this COVID-19 virus. We need persons to continue to practice social distancing. Some people have been extremely disobedient. We have had to arrest a number of persons. And we want persons to also be mindful that even though things are open today, where you are able to go to the food store, the Prime Minister did say in his address to also always have an ID with you, and also to always wear your face mask. I've noticed a number of motorists and persons that are walking, they're not wearing their face masks. We need to encourage persons to do that.
Now, also, I know that officers have certain protocols when it comes to pulling persons over, especially in this pandemic. What are some of those protocols in place so that drivers can be aware?
Okay, when we pull over persons, we ask them a few important questions. We ask them where they're going, where they're coming from. And, these questions are important to determine whether or not we arrest them or not. We know that we have some persons out there, some essential workers, that are providing other services other than essential work. They're using their possessions and their IDs to transport alcohol and other contraband from point A to point B. We found this out, and we are dealing with this as we speak. And also, they're transporting people's spouses from point A to point B so people can connect. And that is an absolute no-no. So when we stop these persons, you might not like it, but it is necessary for us to determine what you're doing out there. Because some persons, they're going to try to capitalize on this to make money and to do other crazy stuff. So we have to do our jobs, and we ask persons, members of the public, and the essential workers especially, to be patient with us. This is something new to us. We want to make sure that this virus does not spread, so we have to do what we have to do. And I also ask officers that have to deal with persons that they would see on the road to also be patient and also exercise a degree of concern and empathy in some cases, but also to be firm. We have to do our job in order for this thing not to spread.
Well, some good information there. Of course, we will definitely do our best to translate that to our viewing and listening audience. Reporting here from Boyd Road and Nassau Street, Lloyd Allen, ZNS Network News.
Well, thanks, Lloyd. You've been locked down for a while now and can certainly use a bit of exercise. And for that, we turn to Natasha Brown.
Hi, good morning. We just got out of a long lockdown and a holiday weekend. So this workout is perfect for you. Anybody can do this. The first thing keep in mind is to modify whatever exercises that are being demonstrated this morning. 2 apparatus we're going to use. A 6-inch block and the stick of a broom. Let's get started. Make sure you start with stretches always. If you haven't done anything from about Thursday, you might be feeling a little tight. So make sure you get your stretches in. Very important. Great. Let's stand together, bring the hands up. You always want to make sure you stretch your entire body. Take the hand across the chest. Yes. Stretch your arms. Now we're going to start with the lateral jumps across the broom, up and back. Ready, go. So keep your position and make sure you're getting the most on the thing. Use your arms. There you go. Ready. Yes. Awesome. Now let's go to the 6-inch block. You want to make sure you're holding it and it's comfortable right here. So we're going to take it all the way down from the deadlift. Bring it to the shoulders. Take it over the head. Shoulders. Deadlift. Shoulders. Push it all the way up. Shoulders. Deadlift. Chest. All the way up. Chest. Deadlift. Make sure the back is straight. Here. 5 more times. That's 1. 2. 3. 4. And 5. Now, we're going to take it into sit-ups. 4 seconds. Hold it right here. So draw. Sit up. 2. Sit up. 3. Up. 4. Take it up. 5. Take it up. 6. Take it up. 7. Up. 8. Up. 9. Take it up. 10. Awesome. Now our final exercise of the morning. We're going to take it into reverse lunges. We're going to only hold it for 10. Make sure the weight, you're holding it evenly. Ready. Right here. 1. Make sure the back is straight. 2. Bring it up. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. Last one. And now we have curls. 10. This was your nugget. 9. 8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. And 1. There you have it. Make sure you are sanitizing your area. You are practicing social distancing, and get ready for tomorrow's session. Well, it will be general again. We will go through some stretches because a lot of persons don't understand why it is important to stretch before, during, and after your routine. Until next time, I am downtown Natasha Brown, keeping you healthy, fit, and energized.
As an artist, I travel all over the world, and I find inspiration all around me. In the people, and especially the environment. I love the Bahamas with all its natural beauty. From Abaco in the north to Inagua in the south, and all the wonderful and colorful islands in between. But we must all do our part to keep the Bahamas healthy and clean, now and for the future generations. That's why I want you to find a little time to do your part. I'm doing my part because I care. Do you?
Across the entire span of the Bahamas, there is a strategic spread of national parks, which play a vital role in protecting the survival and well-being of diverse wildlife, as well as Bahamian livelihoods. The Andrews Westside National Park, for instance, consists of thriving bonefish populations, the healthiest stands of red mangroves found in the Bahamas, breeding and nursery areas that support wildlife such as snappers, groupers, lobsters, and threatened and endangered species like marine turtles, the Andrews rock iguana, and the flamingo.